What lies behind that constant complaint? That lament that seems to inhabit your soul? What if the victim mentality was your unconscious way of filling a deep existential void? An uncomfortable truth, revealed now. Why do we cling to suffering? Why can spirituality, without us realizing it, become a trap to avoid the present? In this video, we will unveil the lost link between our soul and the unconscious need for drama. Prepare for an awakening of consciousness that goes beyond appearances. The time has come to reclaim your personal power. In our path of personal development, we frequently encounter an intriguing paradox. The feeling of an emptiness that seems to stubbornly accompany us, a longing for something we cannot name. This void, my dears, is often what the victim narrative desperately tries to fill. Today, on our journey of awakening consciousness, we will delve into the depths of this mystery. Why do some of us cling so much to the role of victim? We will explore how our resistance to the impermanence of pain keeps us trapped, and how, surprisingly, even the pursuit of spirituality can, at times, distance us from the transformative power of the present. Prepare to reconnect with your essential self and finally understand the wisdom of the river, how to flow with life, releasing the chains of complaint. If you seek true inner transformation and wish to activate your personal power, this is the time to go further. Many times, the victim narrative, that constant story of "I am a victim of circumstances," arises not from an inherent weakness, but from a deep void, a feeling of disconnection from our own essence. It's as if, by feeling at the mercy of others or fate, we fill an inner space with the intensity of drama. This impression of being disconnected from life's purpose or something greater is a common pain, and complaining paradoxically becomes a form of connection, even if it's a connection to pain and the attention it can generate. However, this is a temporary and superficial solution for a soul-deep pain. The person feels that the universe is silent or that they have lost their connection with the sacred, and victimhood can become an unconscious attempt to fill that silence with noise. And it is at this point that we come across an even more fundamental truth, one that philosophy and great traditions have whispered to us for millennia: impermanence. Let's consider, what does victimhood give us? It offers a justification for inaction, a reason for frustration at not being able to manifest real changes, and even a distorted form of belonging, as it attracts sympathy or attention. The challenge is to recognize that this greed for identification with pain prevents true flourishing. The void is not filled with more of the same, with a repetition of negative patterns and self-sabotage, but with a return to our inner truth. Spirituality, when used as an escape from the present, as a way to avoid what is real and uncomfortable, can keep us in this illusion. But when it invites us to presence, to silence, and to self-observation without judgment, it reveals that the void does not need to be filled, but rather understood as a fertile space for awakening. It is in silence that we perceive the strength of ethics and the power of self-knowledge. True compassion begins by recognizing that, by clinging to the role of victim, we are only postponing our own liberation. The invitation is to look at this void not as an absence to be filled by drama, but as a portal to reconnection with the essential self, with a flow of life that requires no justifications, only presence. Pain, in its multiple forms, be it emotional, existential, or relational, is an inevitable companion on the human journey. However, one of the most liberating philosophical concepts that many spiritual traditions and perennial lines of thought offer us is that of impermanence. Everything is transitory. Emotions, situations, even suffering. Pain is not a fixed and immutable state, but rather a flow, a wave that arises and passes away. The problem arises when, for various unconscious reasons, we resist this fundamental truth of impermanence. This resistance to truth is what frequently traps us in the cycle of victimhood. Instead of allowing pain to complete its natural cycle and dissolve, we cling to it, feed it, and perpetuate it. It's as if, by clinging to the identity of victim, we are trying to control or give a fixed meaning to something that, by its nature, is fluid. This resistance can manifest in various forms. Fear of the unknown that will come after the pain, a secondary gain in maintaining the complaint, such as attention or justification for inaction, or even a difficulty in dealing with the clarity and responsibility that arise when the pain dissipates. Philosophy invites us to observe this resistance. Why do we flee from the present and from pain, disguised as light, or a spirituality that avoids confrontation with reality? Masters like Buddha and the Stoics, for example, teach that suffering does not come from pain itself, but from attachment to pain and resistance to what is. When we accept impermanence, when we understand that this pain that paralyzes us today is not eternal, we open space for transformation. The truth that liberates is that you are not your pain. You are the consciousness that observes this pain, and this consciousness is eternal and immutable. By embracing the concept of impermanence and stopping resisting the truth of what is, we dissolve attachment to the role of victim and align ourselves with the natural flow of life. This does not mean denying pain, but rather recognizing it as a passing part of the human experience, and not as the totality of who we are. It is in this recognition that the power of manifestation and conscious creation re-emerges, for we release the energy that was previously trapped in resistance and complaint. Curiously, it is precisely in this resistance to the natural flow that a subtle trap hides, sometimes even within the very search for light. Yes, it is paradoxical, but spirituality, without due presence, can become an escape route from what is real and urgent in the now. It is paradoxical, but in our search for meaning and connection, spirituality itself can, at times, become an escape route. Instead of anchoring us in the here and now and confronting us with reality, be it activated emotional pains or life's challenges, it can transform into a subtle mechanism of evasion. This escape spirituality manifests when we use elevated concepts like high vibration, positive thinking, or law of attraction to mask or avoid uncomfortable feelings, real existential dilemmas, or the need for conscious action in the present. This escape is particularly dangerous because it dresses itself in the garments of virtue. After all, who can argue against the pursuit of inner peace or the elevation of vibrational frequency? However, if the goal is not integration and emotional lucidity, but rather the suppression of what is negative, we fall into the trap of a spirituality empty of practical application. We avoid feeling what needs to be felt, postpone self-observation without judgment, and lose the opportunity to use pain as a catalyst for genuine transformation. This incessant search for a state of constant happiness, or for magical promises, distances us from the beauty of silence and the strength of ethics that arise from the acceptance of the totality of the human experience, including its shadows. Many feel frustrated by not being able to manifest real changes, despite prayers and visualizations. This can happen because they are trying to leap over the process of dealing with their own shadows, with the repetition of negative patterns and self-sabotage. True spirituality invites presence, the ability to be with what is, without judgment, with lightness and philosophical depth. It is crucial to understand that the awakening of consciousness is not an escape from the world, but a deeper immersion in it, with an expanded perception. A wise mentor would lead us to recognize that transformation born of love, and not just of pain, requires brutal honesty with the present. Therefore, the invitation is not to use spirituality as a shield against reality, but as a tool to navigate it with greater clarity, compassion, and coherence. True connection with the sacred happens when we are fully present, embracing both light and shadow. If escape is not the way, and true spirituality invites us to presence, what then is the first and most crucial step to reversing this disconnection and truly reclaiming our power? The answer lies in a deep, internal movement, reconnecting with our essential self, the very source of our strength and clarity. The journey of freeing yourself from the victim role and activating your personal power has its fundamental starting point in reconnecting with what we call the essential self. This self is not the ego, with its stories of pain and its transient identities, but rather your true nature, that which is immutable, full, and connected to something greater. Often, the feeling of disconnection, of emptiness, or the impression that the universe is silent, are, in fact, an echo of our own distance from this inner self. Reclaiming power does not mean manipulating external circumstances or forcing the manifestation of desires through magic keys. On the contrary, it is an internal movement of returning to the source of your own strength, wisdom, and clarity. When we are misaligned with our essential self, we tend to project the responsibility for our happiness or suffering outward, onto situations, other people, or an unforgiving destiny. This is where spiritual loneliness and incomprehension set in, because even surrounded by people, we feel that no one understands our inner journey, because we ourselves have lost contact with our own center. Reconnecting with the essential self is the antidote to the repetition of negative patterns and self-sabotage. It is what allows us to break the cycles of emotional and energetic blockages that prevent us from awakening. This is the first step, because without it, any attempt at change becomes a superficial effort, like trying to tidy the surface of a garden without caring for the root of the plant. True transformation is born from within, from a place of presence, authenticity, and love, and not from pressure or an appeal to suffering. To reconnect, it is necessary first to silence the external and internal noise, allowing the beauty of silence to reveal what lies beneath the layers of the ego. It is a deep listening to the soul, an invitation to full presence that activates inner curiosity and gently and transformatively touches real existential dilemmas. It is in this space that one begins to feel connected to something greater, with the certainty that the universe is listening, and that your mission is still alive, no matter your age or past disappointments. Reclaiming your power is remembering who you truly are. And by remembering who we truly are, we find the wisdom to no longer oppose the current of life. Just like a river, life invites us to flow, to release the moorings that bind us to the banks of complaint, and to navigate with confidence and purpose. Imagine life as a river. It flows constantly, adapting to the banks, bypassing obstacles, but never stopping. Ancient wisdom, present in various spiritual traditions like Taoism and Stoicism, invites us to observe this fluidity and apply its principles to our own existence. Often, instead of flowing, we cling to the banks of complaint, the feeling of disconnection or emptiness, the frustration of not being able to manifest real changes, the fear of growing old without purpose, or shaken faith and deep doubts. These banks are the fixed narratives of victimhood that prevent us from moving forward. The attachment to complaining is a form of resistance to the natural flow of life, an attempt to control the uncontrollable or to remain in a familiar, even if painful, place. It's as if, by feeling trapped in cycles of emotional or energetic blockages, we find a strange security in the familiarity of pain. The wisdom of the river, however, teaches us about impermanence and acceptance. The river does not fight against the stones. It flows around them. It does not cling to the water that has already passed. It moves forward. To flow, you must let go. Let go of the need to blame, to justify inaction, to feel behind on your journey. This does not mean ignoring pain or being irresponsible, but rather recognizing that true transformation happens when we surrender to the process, trusting in the wisdom of life itself. Awakening can happen through experiences of love, presence, clarity, and deep connection, and not just through pain or suffering. By adopting the posture of the river, we cultivate deep humility and serene trust. We allow life to guide us, even in turbulent waters, knowing that we are part of a unified field and a greater guiding energy. This surrender is not passivity, but a conscious action of alignment with the flow, where the ego dissolves and inner truth emerges. It is the loving invitation to transformation, which takes us beyond the banks of complaint and allows us to navigate with inner peace, fullness, and purpose. And by allowing ourselves to let go of the ties of this need for drama and clinging to the banks of complaint, we discover that the emptiness we so desperately tried to fill was, in fact, a portal to the fullness of being. True freedom emerges when we embrace impermanence, allow spirituality to be a path of presence, and reconnect with the essence that flows through us. There is nothing to be sought outside, for the power to manifest a life of purpose and inner peace has always been pulsating here, within each of us, waiting to be accessed by an awakened consciousness and a heart open to truth. If something within you has calmed or awakened upon hearing these words, allow yourself to continue. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to walk with us on this road of fertile silence, discoveries, and reconnection. Leave your experience in the comments. Your sharing is also a seed of healing for other hearts. And to continue expanding this field of presence, we suggest you watch the video in the card. May it be a gentle breath on your journey. Peace and light.